Hi, welcome to Authors Alcove. I am your host, Agnes Wolfe. Today I have sci-fi dystopian writer Tirzah Darnell. She has been a writer since she was 5 years old when she wrote and illustrated her first book, The Ant in Tennis Shoes. Since then, she has directed the film Unscared and starred in the musical. Can you pronounce Mazuma? Is that how you pronounce it?
Zoom, Mazuma, yes.
Azuma. Her, her most recent publication was the article, The Destruction of the Colombian City of Armero during the 1985 volcanic eruption of the Nevada del Ruiz. She has an MA in political science, which we're going to talk a little bit about how it relates to writing dystopian novels. And she lives in Beeville, Texas, where she teaches government and history. And if you guys have ever heard, that's what I used to teach. But anyway, what we are here today is to talk about her book, The Planet of Darkness, book one of the City of Dark Tyrant. We're going to talk a little bit about world building, the craft of writing, and of course, the dystopian genre. So welcome, Tirzah. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me here.
Great. Thank you for coming. Could you just share a little bit about yourself and your background in writing?
Okay, well, I started writing when I was about 7 years old. I would reading books with my mom, and I'd say, "Oh, these books, they just don't turn out the way I'd like them to turn out." And my mom says, "Well, why don't you write it yourself?" So I started writing at that point, and I had a couple of teachers that really encouraged me, and I actually also encouraged my sister to write too, and she's actually has a book out now too as well. So, and what I really think is amazing is when you build up a group of authors that support each other, and that's I think is so beautiful. It didn't used to always be that way.
Yeah, I think social media has really helped that. And
Yeah.
I think that's what helps the self-publishing process too. Did
Yeah.
you self-publish or did you go traditional?
Well, I self-published, but I have a mentor that was really helping me along the way. So it was really nice. Mhm.
So you actually wrote The Plan of Darkness, and it is the first in a series. Could you just share a little bit about this book and the direction it's planning on going?
Okay, I wrote this book. Um, I started it actually when I was a teenager, and I was in Germany, a military family, and I was going through a bout of depression at the time. And just thinking about the story and writing it really helped me through that time. And a lot of the characters, a lot of the, like the thought of being in darkness and trying to find your way out of that darkness, it really spoke to me a lot while I was writing. And I'm a planner, not a pantser, so I build up my stories. I have it all planned out. I have the whole thing. In fact, I have the whole trilogy planned out in my head. So, and I'm working on a book two right now, and it's all planned out. I just need to kind of fill in the details.
That's great. So how did you get the idea for this particular book? You said a little bit about your depression. Was there any other things that helped spark things?
Some elements come from different things that I like. I'm a sci-fi fan. I like Star Wars and Star Trek and things like that. But um, the story itself, it just kind of built itself in my head. So I don't know how much of it is the other or I really love characters. I love personalities and psychology and things like that. And this is a space opera, so there are a lot of very interesting characters in there.
I know that so this is a sci-fi plus it's a dystopian. So it's a sci-fi dystopian. And one of the aspects of the dystopian is that it gives the reader or the characters hope in some way. In
Yeah.
what way did hope play a part in your particular novel?
It is in there's a planet of light, and a lot of the characters are trying to find their way to the planet of light because of the planet of darkness. It's on the verge of destruction. And another thing that spoke to me is when I was going for my master's in political science, my focus was disaster resilience. So you see a lot of that in this book, whereas, some people, they aren't as resilient as other characters. I think that plays a lot in this. And I am a world builder to the T because political science, history, the importance of backstories, the importance of the way these places got built, the importance of the government and the different elements of society. And that's why I like to pull all that out in these type of stories.
So, talking about the world building aspects, what were some of the inspirations behind some of the world elements that you created?
Well, I like to create, like atmosphere and thinking about how do you do these worlds come to be. That plays a lot into it because you got these different planets here. Not all of them are just like spontaneous people, just all of a sudden they were on that planet. They came there for different reasons. All those elements of society are important, and I like to pull all those out in the story. And not only that, but each of the characters' histories is very important too in the story.
So, when you go about writing, you said that you are a plotter, not a pantser. How do you craft your outline?
I start out by, first of all, a broad outline. I say, this needs to happen, that needs to happen. And then I also have a side outline for each of the characters. So I plan each of what happens with each of the characters separately. And then so I have all these different outlines for each of the different elements, and then I pull them together. As I'm pulling the two together, I think of where good points to, okay, we're going to stop off here because this is a good point for keeping things exciting. So let's go over and learn a little bit more about what's going on here and going on over here. The way Star Wars is where you something exciting is happening, and then okay, meanwhile over here, while you're wondering what's going on over here, let's go over here for a while and go over there for a while and pull them all together. Because all these things they weave together to. I don't like to add fluff to my stories, but it's very deep. I try to keep it very deep.
So, talking about those particular characters, who are your main characters? What are their names and what are their personalities and how do they play out in the book?
Main character on the planet of darkness, the people have name numbers, not names, which is contrary to what in the planet of light everybody has names with meaning. So like right now you don't have a meaning, you don't have a purpose, whereas in the planet of light your names say what your purpose is. It's their they have meanings. So the main character is from the on the planet of darkness, and his number is 245, and he works as a propaganda specialist, so for the Dark Tyrant. And so he's seeing, as he's working as a propaganda specialist, that things aren't really, he's putting out lies. He's realizing that there's something not of truth here. We need to get something that's real. And his family is an important family, so he's a little bit higher class than some of the other people. So he's also has something that he could, give up because he has to protect his money, his family, and his society. But is he going to give that up in order to get to the planet of light? That's the main character. There's also another one a lot of people really like this character. He's 113. His number's 113, and he's a persuader. So he works for the Dark Tyrant to trying to persuade people. So he has kind of like a little bit of magic, and he has some persuasive powers. And he's a very interesting character. He's kind of dark character, but he's not totally dark. It's a little naughty, but it's good. And then the other one is 5083. He's an apprentice to a really creepy lady persuader, 696. And also another character is a slump bump girl. The slump bumps are the people in society that the Dark Tyrant orders them. They can't do anything. They can't dream. They think. They can't work. It's just like according to the economics of the society, you need to have a certain segment of society that just does nothing. So in order to keep everything balanced. And so she's a girl that has a dream, and she sees the light there in the sky, and she has a dream about infinity. Infinity is the prince of the planet of light. So she has this dream that someday she will be rescued by infinity. So we have those are the main characters that are trying to find their way out. There's other ones too, but I don't know how much we need to go into that.
I actually find it really interesting that you have chosen to use numbers for names because that's
Mhm.
actually an element that I chose. And I chose to do it for a sect of, there actually would be ogres, I guess,
Okay.
because mine's a fantasy.
Mhm.
And I purposely had them have numbers because I wanted to take away their identity. And one of the things is one of the caretakers gives them names, but it's kind of like a secret thing. He doesn't realize that what he's doing by giving them an identity and what he's causing. And so I find it interesting that you chose to take away their identity by taking away their name. So
Yes.
do you talk a little bit about those that are in light? Because you talked a lot about the characters that are in dark. Do you have anybody in light that are that is plays a part in the first book?
Yes. In fact, fairly early on, we meet Infinity, which is the prince of the planet of light, and he knows that that the planet of darkness is on the verge of destruction. There's actually another planet in the history, as we kind of find a little bit about the history of this whole area, is a planet called Berkelar, and that planet was destroyed. And all they know is that in the history books that Infinity was on that planet not long before it was destroyed. So we don't know what caused that destruction. We're going to find out more along about the history of that planet. So, but Infinity knows that it's on the verge of destruction, and he is set to visit that planet to rescue whoever wants to be rescued. So that's Infinity. He also has some people work for him, uh, the Way Guide, and then there's the Shadow Shield. He's very interesting. He has a backstory. There's another element of people that live on planet Grubia. These are they're called Grubian ghouls. He has a kind of connection with those. And so there's also a safe house on the planet of darkness where some of these people are working with Infinity. And also there is this lady that works with Infinity, and she's the shepherdess of the valley. So most of the planet is dark, so there's no light to grow plants and animals and things, but there's this one area that she tends to. They have the Birkeland trees that glow. She's a shepherdess, but she also has working for her a whole pack of wolves that work with her. So she's going out trying to find those who that are willing to be rescued.
That sounds really interesting. I'm very excited because I know you're mailing a book, and my hope is that this past week I will have been promoting it and finding somebody to send it to. So by the time that this will come out, I will have read your book. Anyway, so I find it interesting that you have a master's in political science and history with a focus on war and disasters and disaster resilience. So
Yes.
how do you feel this helped you when you were creating your fictional worlds?
I think it helps a lot because another area, yeah, like I said, disaster resilience was an area, but also I've been doing research on women and children and the effects of wars and disasters on women and children in particular. And when you have all these, you understand the way people react to disasters and wars and things like that. I think it really can help you to add that reality there to make it believable. It's important that, like, especially with dystopians and world building and people going through disasters, understanding that, and having studied that a lot, and what leads to disasters, because they don't just spontaneously happen. There's something that's causing it, and we need to know all those elements, I believe.
I believe that too. That's one of the reasons why I loved teaching history and government is because I don't really care about, like, what I would tell the students at the very beginning is, like, I don't care if you know who the first president of the United States. What I want you to know is why he was unanimously elected. What
Mhm.
was it about his character? What did he do prior? And those are the type of things, like, I want to know the why. I want you to know the whys and hows because that's going to help you so much more than knowing the who's, what's, and where's.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree. That's what I love about it too. And I always get sad when I have some students that don't care, but I want them to care. And that's the more people that care, I think the world will be a lot better.
Yeah, I actually did not do tests with the dates and all of that. I would actually have them write little essays.
Yes.
And it was on how thoughtful their responses were. And I'm a pretty easy grader though. So what are you currently working on right now?
It's book two of the Planet of Darkness, and there's I'm bringing in some new really interesting characters into this one. In fact, I got a couple of favorites that I'm doing, and I hope I don't overdo them because I like him so much. It's a couple of cool bounty hunter sisters, twin sisters that I think are going to be very, very exciting. I'm looking forward to them a lot. And there's going to be bringing in more of the shepherdess of the valley, and also, 5083 has got some things interesting things up ahead. He's going to have his own apprentice soon.
I had to include twins too because I actually have twin daughters. So I had to include that.
Oh,
So
yes.
like when I heard twins, I was like, ooh, I love twins.
Yeah. Yes.
It's been great talking to you. What is a book that you would recommend for us to read that you have read either recently or just an all-time favorite?
I'm right now reading a really intriguing book. It's by an author. His name is Tilmer Wright Jr. and it's called Palace Gate. And it's really interesting. I love the way he's writing about these. These are kind of not really really young kids, but they're kids. But the way he writes about them is so believable. I was feeling like I was going back in time. I was a kid all of a sudden again. So the way he's writing this it's amazing, and I'm really enjoying that book.
That's awesome. What was the title again?
Talis Gate, Talis Gate, and it's sci-fi elements to there because there's these different worlds that these kids are being drawn into. So I recommend that book.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Tirzah. I want to ask you the question that I ask everyone else.
Mhm.
So before we go, what is one piece of advice that you would give to a not yet published author?
My piece of advice is that to build a coalition of authors, you meet authors, get to know them, be their friend, and support them, and they will support you because that's the number one thing is supporting each other, and that's the way to survive those disasters is through a coalition.
I love that. And I agree with that 100%. I am amazed at the communities. I know there's a really big TikTok community. Well, they call it Book Talk. There's a Bookstagram, which is on Instagram, of course. And then Facebook has even really great groups. And I've actually looked a little bit at LinkedIn. Not as much in there. I seen in there, but I know there's a really great community even in that one. Which platform have you mainly stayed in to meet a lot of authors?
I have a big presence on Facebook, but I am on Instagram. But it's under my real name, Rebecca Kyler, and I'm not afraid to tell everybody my real name, Rebecca Kyler. So it's Cuyler, and I'm also in LinkedIn. I'm still trying to get comfortable in there. And this summer, I plan on getting into TikTok. I'm really busy most of the time, but I'm wanting to go all those places. But my page on Facebook, it's Resilient Moon Creative. That's my page.
I believe I follow that.
And I follow you.
Awesome. Actually, there's also X. I forget about that one. Twitter, X.
Oh,
There's
yes, I'm on Twitter, but I'm trying to find my way back in there because they won't let me back in.
well, but one thing that I like about the one thing I like about X or Twitter, I have trouble calling it X, but one thing I like about X is that people can share yours, and so many people do that. And so, like when I'm on there, I share at least 20 different people's. Like I'm like, ooh, that looks good, I'll share it. Ooh, that looks good, I'll share it. And that's one thing I like about that. But I don't get in. I probably get in there like maybe once or twice a month. So
Yeah, I'm wanting to get back there. I'll find a way get back in there. And what I always do is I call it X, formerly known as Twitter.
yeah. Well, thank
That's
you
its new
again.
name.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Tirzah, for taking the time out of your schedule to talk with me. I also just want to thank my listeners for listening. If you're interested in reading her book, it was The Planet of Darkness. And thank you so much for talking again, Tirzah. I appreciate it. And the links are in the show notes.
And thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you for joining us on this magical journey through Authors Alcove, the reading nook. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. And remember, this episode is brought to you by noadays.com, a company that offers many courses from how to become a freelance writer to proofreading and editing. I have personally taken some of these courses, and I am very happy with what I learned. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, you can find the affiliate link in the show notes. I would love for you to join me on my other 2 podcasts as well, Authors Alcove, The Writing Corner, where we talk about everything writing, publishing, and marketing, as well as Authors Alcove, The Healing Corner, where authors share their books on healing and recovery. Until next time, keep reading, keep dreaming, and we'll see you in the next chapter.